Legal Services for the Elderly is celebrating 40 years of serving seniors.
At its core, Legal Services for the Elderly is just made up of people who want to fight for what's right for older people. It's as simple as that.
In the beginning, Trish Riley saw a need for seniors.
I traveled the state and sat at kitchen tables with older people and got to know them and heard their issues. And it struck me that they were vulnerable to all kinds of abuse and potential scams, and that legal services would be an important service for them, and they were folks who couldn't afford it, private lawyers themselves. I had to learn how to write a grant. I had to learn what the federal rules were, and I found out about Title III funding with the Older Americans Act and wrote it at the kitchen table. There certainly wasn't time at work to do that, and submitted it to the federal government and got funded.
LSE, at its start, served the entire state of Maine, but it served the entire state of Maine with a single attorney and volunteers.
Maine became the first state to have a statewide legal services for the elderly program. Other states had them, other districts had them. They were all urban. In the early days, I traveled around a lot. One of the fun things was in 1978, only because I kept track that year, I appeared before every single sitting judge in the state of Maine, in every single court that was in the state of Maine. It was a time of a lot of driving.
As we sit here today, there are 26 staff members at LSE. We continue to serve the entire state. And having more staff has allowed us to just serve more and more seniors. So in the beginnings, where it may have been hundreds, we now serve over 7,000 people in a year.
LSE has expanded its services through the years. In 1992, a helpline was established, and in 2006, the Medicare Part D Appeals Unit was initiated, giving seniors help in securing their prescription drugs. In 2007, LSE buys its permanent home in Augusta.
LSE is very unique in that, in addition to helping seniors one senior at a time in terms of their legal problems, we are really fortunate in that we have the ability to pursue public policy advocacy work. And our longest term employee, Leo Delicata, 25 years with LSE, is our public policy advocate. And I think some of his accomplishments in those 25 years really would stand out as proud moments. Things he's done to preserve benefits for seniors, in particular in the recent past when there's been efforts to make reductions, but also in areas like Meals on Wheels funding, his work on healthcare or Durable Power of Attorney Act, his work dating back even further than that when there were changes in the nursing home eligibility requirements. He was involved in litigation and public policy work. So we have a bigger impact by doing that work, and we're really lucky to have somebody who's committed his life to it. It is just an amazingly moving experience when we get somebody's home back for them.
It changed my life because I'm too terrified, in the beginning, because I thought, I had lived in the place since 1977, and I thought, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, the water was turned off, They assigned Julie to me, and she came to my rescue, and within 24 hours, everything was just back to normal again. And I could really breathe, better then. And she was very, very helpful.
To see that person put back in their home, to feel like they're secure again, that the place they've lived maybe for decades is a place they get to stay, that can happen over and over again, and it's still memorable every time. In 1987, the Legal Services for the Elderly staff were part of pursuing a new statute called the Improvident Transfer of Title Act. And at its heart, the way I would describe it is, it's a statute that lets us undo something that should not have happened in the first place. So if a senior gives their home away under circumstances where it never should have happened, the statute lets us turn back the clock.
Clients are rarely at a loss for ways to say thank you to legal services.
We're very lucky at LSE in that our clients as a whole are just extraordinarily appreciative. And I'm really glad the staff get to hear day in and day out thanks from clients, because we do hear it often. But every once in a while, someone will say it in a way that we all remember. And one client that we all still talk about to this day is someone that told us that people like me with no background who get into legal settlement are doomed, and then proceeded to thank us for helping with that. Another person told us that the reason they would call us again is because we are a with-it outfit that knows what we're doing. So we like the idea of that, being a with-it outfit that knows what we're doing. I hear attorneys on the phone every day in the helpline, and what they're describing, trying to convince someone of, is we're going to help them for free. You know, I understand that, because there's not a lot of services like that left right now. LSE was really hard hit when the Federal Administration on Aging decided to discontinue funding senior helpline services. We worked really diligently to build local support to replace the federal support. The United Ways have been a tremendous supporter of LSEs and the helpline, and they helped build things back up. And so little by little we were able to find ways to recover the ground that we had lost, and to keep the open access to our services. But it was definitely probably one of the most troubled moments in the organization's history.
LSE is extremely grateful and humbled by the financial support shown by the Maine Bar Foundation Interest of Lawyers Trust Account, the 5 United Ways in Maine, and the Campaign for Justice.
LSE's always facing funding challenges, but it's really brought a lot of stability to LSE to have certain sources of state funding that are there for us, that are very stable. And one of them was created in 1987. It's called Interest on Lawyers Trust Accounts, and it's administered by the Maine Bar Foundation. And it really served to, again, stabilize things for LSE, allow us to keep our statewide reach. And it's a way that the private bar supports legal services for the elderly. Another way the private bar supports us is through the Campaign for Justice. One of the things that I've been doing more and more of is collaborative work in the elder abuse area. The public awareness campaign was launched, TV, radio, and newspaper, and our calls did go up. 25% or more. Our calls for help from victims went up over 44%, but the staff just really have done a terrific job with it.
These days, we're seeing a lot of financial exploitation cases. That is kind of the bulk of what I'm seeing. And I think in a way you can look at that in a discouraging way, that there's all this financial exploitation out there, but I think I tend to look at it in a more positive way, that the word is out. Financial exploitation has always been around, but I think until more recently, people haven't been able or been willing to try to access services and try to get help to address their problems.
We can't count how many people were stopped before they gave their house away or their credit card away or signed something they shouldn't have, but we know those people are out there.
For 40 years, LSE has filled its staff, its board, and its volunteers with pride and satisfaction of a job well done and the joy of changing the lives of seniors.
Although LSE is a legal services provider, our board is really unique. We only have 1/3 of the board made up of lawyers, and the other 2/3 includes seniors and other types of professionals that are interested in issues affecting seniors. And there just is a very long history there of support for the mission, support for the work, and again, highly credentialed people giving generously of their time. So, you know, along with the history of the staff making a real difference in the community, I think the LSE board really stands out in terms of the quality of the members and their devotion to the work and to the mission.
Legal services for the elderly today is wonderful, but it is so much more than we could ever offer, because the extent of services, the level of training that they're able to offer is simply, is what we aspired to in the early 70s, and we wish that we could have done it then, but it's still is just delightful to see from the distance that I have now.
I think legal services has played an extraordinarily important role in helping people achieve the full rights and benefits of the society, even in their later years.
There is absolutely nothing for a lawyer like getting to do work that's from the heart. And I actually think you would get the same explanation for why I do this work that you just got from me, from every lawyer in the place.